What is going on, folks? Welcome to a very special episode of Secondhand Talent. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Secondhand Talent 101. As usual, thank you to Mark Spusta for the shirt for the art on the shirt. Thank you to Luke Chu and to Tenacious Toys for the desk candy. And thank you, as always, to Tiny Steiner, my tiny co-host. He's right over here in case you can't see him. But most importantly, thank you to you, our listeners, our readers, our viewers all around the world. We love you so much, and we're so glad that you're here with us in Season 6. And, folks, for Secondhand Talent 101, we had to make it something special. We found a diamond in the rough, ladies and gentlemen. We found something that I did not, in 21 years of being in this industry, I did not know that this existed. And I am so grateful and excited to bring on taper and archivist Ethan Spencer. Ethan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be on.
It's really the pleasure is all mine, and since we connected, I've really been looking forward to this conversation. But before we get into the details, we do need to start the interview the same way we start every interview. When I first reached out to you and said, I have a podcast called Secondhand Talent, what was like the instant reaction, word association that you thought it might be about?
I'm like, okay, this is clearly a podcast, but I'm like, this is not a particular podcast that covers this type of stuff, going out like to the community, some just helping each other out um and giving them a second hand or a hand, and I'm like, okay. And I saw a couple of the episodes and I'm like, okay, I recognize a couple of names, so I'm like, fuck it, let's do it. Why not? And here we are.
And here we are, and I got to give a big shout, because the way that we crossed paths was in, I believe, through the Widespread Panic community, and I
That's
got to
right.
give credit to Turner May of the Sandbox channel for introducing me to the music of Mikey Hauser and Widespread Panic, and that's why this conversation is happening. And folks, the reason this is such an incredible interview, this young gentleman right here, when we first connected, one of the things that really resonated with me was that he mentioned, and I may be paraphrasing and correct me if I'm wrong, something to the effect of you felt that college wasn't for you.
Yep, that's correct. No, college wasn't for me.
So what was your feeling after high school? Like, where did you kind of see yourself directionally if you felt like college wasn't the place?
I I'm just like, I don't know, At this point, I just take it day by day and just hope for the best, So, and I think I'm living at my best right now,
And
Um,
that's the best. And honestly, that's the right answer. The best we can do is the best we could do. And I say young man, folks, because this is a taper and archivist who is at the ripe old age of 20 years old. And I remember, God bless the tapers. Without tapers, we would, the legacy of so many bands just would not have carried on for as long as they have and still do to this day. And I remember in our initial conversation, one of the things that I was really trying to understand is not necessarily even what led you to taping, but if you understood the gravity of like the service that you do.
Honestly, I feel like I'm only just scratching the surface, and I feel like I've also dived deep in this big ass rabbit hole, and it's a great rabbit hole to dive into, And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, I'll do it too, I don't think there's, well, there's definitely tapers out there, just they're not at every show, of course, and I'm like, I should probably do this kind of stuff too. You know, there might be some guy one day, hey, I want to listen to this show from this band on this day, and it's oh, I'm losing my words here right
No,
now,
you're good,
but
man.
I want them to look back and say, that was it was great, and fuck.
What what you are doing, what you are doing. So, uh, our 99th episode, our interview was with Justin Hampton, who was part of the team of the first group of poster artists to make a gig print for every stop on the tour. It was for Queens of the Stone Age with Jermaine Rogers and Emick in 2003, 2002, 2003. And later in later in the season, you guys will see this, but I interviewed Hutch, Queens of the Stone Age, their original front of house guy, and I asked him about it and said, "What was the impetus behind having a poster at every show?" And the answer was very clear. It was that you were there. It's a memento of a specific occasion, almost like a time capsule of an event. And I, for 7, maybe now at the time of this airing, 8 years, have been desperately searching for a tape of the God Street Wine Show in Chicago in July of 2018, and nobody seems to have it. And it was one of the best concerts I've ever been to. And same with one of the Matis Yahoo shows I've seen. Like, there's not even a set list available. And to find someone who, I mean, is it an innate curiosity of music history? Talk to us a little bit about like how
It
you
definitely,
segued
yeah.
into this path.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely involved in music history because I'm a big history buff, just naturally. And really, my first like deep dive into it was when I was getting into Led Zeppelin because there are not that many official live releases of Led Zeppelin. There's the DVD, How the West Was Won, and Song Remains the Same. That's basically it. And and there are other performances by them where I think they're 10 times as better, maybe 50 or 100-fold, and minus the quality. Well, this is what they could work with at the time, but the fact that they're able to work with it and do the whole thing is just it's nuts, and oh, what was I about to say? But and then I deep dive into Pink Floyd, and then there was Rush, that had a bootleg community. But I didn't really like start doing it until after I got into King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, and then I figured out, oh, there are all these tapers for all these jam bands, and well, I knew the Grateful Dead did that, but I didn't realize like there was a much like bigger like community, and plus these other bands too. That also opened the door for me, King Gizzard, and just this era of music. There is good music in this era. You just gotta look for it. You're not gonna find it on the radio. I mean, you'll be lucky if you find it on the radio. I was fortunate enough to find a couple things on the radio, but it's mostly just the top 40 songs just over and over every hour.
Well,
So, and
and so
um,
many things you just said, I love lyrics, and the Grateful Dead in particular, you know, the impetus, when they were asked why they allowed people to tape their shows, right? Because and this is documented in interviews. Bobby, Jerry, the band, they're all recorded saying like, "We did it already. It's not going to be done again."
mhm.
And so why not? And, two lyrics in particular come to mind. One, towards the latter of what you said, once in a while you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. But more so than that, it really the ethos of taping and taping culture. I'm wearing a Mife hat of Colonel Forbin stepping through the door, which is kind of what you're doing right now. And the Grateful Dead sang it out, let the words be yours, I'm done with mine. And that was the ethos carried forward. My mom, took part in that tradition, and I grew up with a rack of cassette tapes of Grateful Dead shows that she recorded. And you have to ask yourself, I mean, I asked myself when I was a kid, why? And it's because, like you just mentioned, the technology at the time. People didn't have data files to send over the internet. There were no WAV, FLAC, MP3, MP. I mean, like, there just wasn't the capability to do it. So if you had it, you had it, and if you didn't, you just didn't. And the other little thing I want to hone in on, and I would love to get your perspective on this. I'm old enough to remember or to have observed the technological growth in taping specifically. And in the 90s, it's a VCR camcorder, a stack of XLR cassettes, and like
Hmm.
you know trying to set up a whole rig and trying not to get kicked out of the show, and
Right.
precious little footage existing. And
Yeah,
talk
I
about
tried to bring
what
in my camcorder to Billy Strings, but they wouldn't allow me
you have a
in.
camcorder.
Yeah, I'm right here, right here.
What?
That's what I filmed widespread on,
My
and most of
brother
the
in
other content.
Christ, what is
Yeah, it's the VHS camcorder, and then you get of course, the VCR built in, of course, and where are my tapes? My tapes are not on the table. My tapes are in the other room, but you get the point, you know.
I do,
And
and I gotta ask, okay, so what was it about that KGLW show? Because I
the
know
very first one,
yeah, the
so
one that changed your mind, like the one that opened the door for that made you want to
for
step into it.
everything, just
So start with the
every
everything, and then we'll go to taping.
just everything changed. Okay, this King Gizzard is my new favorite band, not of all time, but my new favorite band today. Still is, probably will be, as long as they're around. Um, but just going there out of curiosity, just because of the ridiculous ass name. But and it was the best show ever. I will not stop talking about that show.
So
and and
what
going
elements of the
on,
show?
just everybody. It was good vibes all around. The band showed off great vibes. The fans showed off great vibes. Just and then oh god, just everything about it. I felt like that was the perfect introduction to King Gizzard, and I felt like it was the perfect time for me to get into everything at this age too, because yeah, I was 19 at the time, um, and then as I went to more King Gizzard gigs, I got to more exposure to like everything else, the tapers, the shakedown street, you name it. So, and then back to where you gotta look for good music nowadays. That that was the moment I realized like there is good music still out there today, still being made. In the year, well, now we're in 2026, but you it's it's amazing. It was.
Another Grateful Dead lyric. The music never stopped. I mean, it really is fascinating. And one of the really, I think the most fascinating part about the fact that it was KGLW is that, and we spoke about this a little bit before we decided to do the interview. There's some bands that are that are bigger, that have massive fan bases, that I just it, it just doesn't resonate with me in the same way. So I'll throw out a few because I don't want to isolate anyone. And I want to couch this by saying that this has absolutely no reflection on the musicianship and the quality of the talent, because I think that each one of these performers or groups are extremely talented in every aspect, from production to musicianship, and I mean, you name it. KGLW, Goose, Billy Strings,
I mean,
and
I definitely understand Goose. I mean, yeah, I never got Goose. I saw them, well, for free, luckily.
were you
And
undecided?
I was on. Well, no, it wasn't. It was not that I was undecided. I could literally like see these shows for free. I saw the Widespread Panic for free just by going on the hill and then watching from afar. But anyway,
Let me tell you a little story.
thank you.
Let me tell you a little story about a tape that exists for only a certain reason, just like that. And this is why, again, what you do is so important. In October of 2016, I was in Nashville, Tennessee at Ascend Amphitheater, and Bob Weir played with Fish. And we all knew that Fish was there 2 nights. Bobby was playing one night at the Ryman. So everybody in Nashville was like, so Shakedown, I was on tour with a buddy of mine, vending on Shakedown. And it's like a hill, and then there's like a bridge, and then Ascend. And you could see right into it. And like or halfway through the sound check, we start hearing a riff. Right? Is that Walking Blues? That's that's Walking Blues. And then Bobby started singing, and we ran like damn the torpedoes, like forget like and it's not like we were leaving our booths unattended. Everybody on the lot
Right.
was
Yeah.
running to the vantage point, and we got to see this sound check, and somebody taped it, thankfully,
Wow.
because they didn't play that song during the show. You know, it just it's great to have soundboard audio, but there is nothing like the roar
Oh yeah.
when I'll give two examples just of Fish because I was there. Well, not there for the first one, but when they busted out Destiny Unbound, you could barely hear the song. The crowd is so loud, and it's just such a magnificent feeling. And then the other one was when you listen to the sound, or not the soundboard, but the audience recording of night 3 of UIC Fish 2011. When Trey starts up Colonel Forbin's Ascent, it's not like they hadn't been playing it, but it's the first time that Forbin had opened a show since 1989. And I will never forget. It felt like the room was shaking. 1,249 shows since it started a show. And thankfully, we have tapers, because what you're doing is similar to, and what tapers do is similar to creating a gig print for it's a token of memory. And I'm curious, so after KGLW, where did your next musical adventures lead you? You said it opened some doors.
Well, it my second favorite band today, Dogs in a Pile. Well, I heard the name at a Led Zeppelin tribute concert actually, but it was that year that I got into Giz that I also got to see my first dog show, and I wouldn't say until like the second or third show, definitely the third show, but I'm not sure about the second show, where it really like cemented me as a fan. I actually have a very funny story that some dogs fans may know, but oh god, do you want me to tell it? So, Charlottesville, Virginia, Jefferson Theater, April 18th. My second Dogs in the Pilot show. I meet the guy. I meet a guy in the crowd in the pit. Just we're like in front of Brian Murray, the one of the guitar players, and we were chatting for a little bit before the show, and he's like, "Hey man," during the set break, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to Raleigh tomorrow to see them again. Do you want to come along?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Yes, I want to go. Fuck yeah, on fucking 420 weekend."
Buy the ticket and take the ride.
There you go. Actually, that's another thing. I was gonna get to that. How I got my ticket. Billy Strings was in Raleigh the same day Dogs was, and the rumor was that Billy was gonna sit in with Dogs. Spoiler alert, that didn't happen. And I sold water in the Billy lot, and I do this at a lot of shows actually during like spring, summertime. I just go around, sell waters, make a little bit of extra cash, you know. And we sold a pack, and that was enough to pay for my ticket. And the all right, so that day was April 19th. Not everybody knows what April 19th is. So for those unaware, that is Bicycle Day, where we celebrate taking a specific kind of substance.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So we get to the theater, Lincoln Theater, and I take my substance. He takes his substance, but I was fine. But him, he was right next to me, and we were still in the front of Brian. But we were so close, he started to lean on the stage, and he started to touch the pedal board. He's like, he has his hand on the touch. I'm like, dude, no, you shouldn't do that.
If you touch the pedal board at a concert and you're not the band member, you're gonna have a bad time.
But he didn't press any of the buttons or or adjust the knobs or anything, which was good. But then he started to grab the mic stand, and he wouldn't let go. There was like 5, 6 of us trying to let him go. There's a guy with a cane trying to get off. He beats one of the guys trying to get him off. This is all on YouTube, by the way. This is on the Talks in the Pub.
Links in the description.
And then you can see in the video, and then Nick, their photographer, that he comes out. He is pissed. He yanks him off, and then I get him, and then security escorts him out along with me, and then once we were out, I dragged him. Yes, I dragged him across the parking lot to the car. Got it all set up for him, making sure he's okay. Going in and out of the venue, just getting our stuff, and then tuning into the music, and then coming back out, checking in on him. And this was the whole show, by the way. This is the whole rest of the show. Just me in and out. Afterwards,
That's just like I'm picturing you walking out at set break and be like, "Hey, bud, you good?
I don't
We
think
left the windows down for you."
I can't remember. No, the first time I came back, that was after the set break, and they actually played a song that he's been wanting to hear by
Naturally.
Dogs. Yeah, right.
The only
and they opened the
Alpine-
second, and he knew they were gonna play it. He knew it. Luckily, he eventually got it. But back to Raleigh. Afterwards, I meet the band. I said, "Hey, sorry about him. He just took too much." You know, they were chill about it. They seemed alright. I talked to them till 2, 3 in the morning. My friend, who was actually really close to the band, he checked in on him too, along with me, and his, his oh my god, it was a he was babbling a gibberish mess, but he's okay. He the next day he was thriving, and I gave him a
Oh,
signed
I
hat.
guarantee you he was thriving in the moment. Like,
He told me the face of Lincoln was rather unsettling.
those that's like what I would put under famous last words. That's like not that you say, but that you hear. Like that's like just like one of those like mm-mm. Like I know what all of those words mean in English, but in that order, I'm concerned. Like that's,
Yep, that was us last night, and well, not last night, the that night. And then we eventually went over to Nick once he was a little more sober. He was still high as shit, but he was a little more sober. He went over, apologized, and he said, "Yeah, that's cool. Just don't do that again. Take a break." And and that was that. And then I got the band to sign his hats when he wasn't looking, and then I gave it to him once he was sober, as like, "Hey, thank you, man, for bringing me down. I'm definitely a fan, as if I already wasn't a fan, and you know."
yeah, absolutely. And did you record that show?
I did not record that show. I didn't have anything. I was only planning to go to one show, which is the Charlottesville show. But yeah, and I didn't have a camcorder on me at the time either. So that's
Out of curiosity, how did you get that camcorder? Because I didn't know that like eBay
just
or like
yeah, just Marketplace. Facebook
wow.
Marketplace. This one in particular, actually, I got it for free. Something was wrong with it. I just fixed it up, and then now it's all working.
All right.
And then I have another one before this one that was like $50. I just needed the battery for it, and then it was all good to go.
So what you say these things like, so I just fixed it. And it's like, okay, but like, where did you get the acumen for technology to be able to utilize these devices and this technology, especially retrograde technology that's no longer being used? Like, where did that come from?
I've kind of always been into old technology ever since before I was a
Okay, let's not
teenager.
call it old, but like previous
Well,
technology,
well,
because that's my
previous, outdated, sometimes
okay.
obsolete.
Let's go back to old. Yeah, old is good. I like old better. Old technology. Yeah.
Yeah, all this this 80s, 70s, whatever decade tech, and arcade games were a really early interest of mine. The ones you see like Pac-Man, Asteroids, all the Defenders and stuff. I have a couple of them actually in my storage unit. So it kind of stemmed from that, and then I guess my musical taste also kind of stems to that because Journey, the band Journey, they had an arcade game, and I found about that before I found out the band, and I realized it was based in the band, and then I gave the band a listen, and that just kind of it's a chain reaction all the way from there.
I just for all of our readers and listeners who are not watching on YouTube, first of all, like and subscribe on YouTube, but also leave a review wherever you are. But like my face just kind of went slack there as he said that. Wow.
In a good way or a bad
In
way?
an incredible way. I mean, you know, when we think of the term in technology, it's backwards compatible, right? So as we upgrade, for example, to USB-C, what we find is USB adapters, right? That will adapt to the updated plug. But there's a certain level of going backward that just becomes impossible because the hardware isn't being made anymore. Where where do you source tapes, things like that? Are you fine? Are these like I'm genuinely asking. I've never interviewed a taper before, and the fact that you use a camcorder, where are you getting your just raw materials?
I mean, they don't make those brand new anymore, obviously, but they're just so much on secondhand markets. They're really cheap too. It's like $10 a tape on average. I probably get them for less. Um, But yeah, all the secondhand markets, and then I also shoot on the Super 8 film, which they're still making that. Which that's kind of what started the whole thing, and it stemmed back to King Giz. I wanted to get King Giz on film because I saw back to the Led Zeppelin live bootlegs and stuff. I saw all the old footage of Led Zeppelin filmed by audience members, and I thought that's pretty cool. And it's crazy because it could be insane quality too. It's not like it's from 2005 and you're recording on your flip phone and that comes like 100 pixels worth of image. But yeah, that you can, yeah, it's
Well, that's an awareness that a lot of people don't have, is that even though that technology is currently outdated, at the time it was at the top, it was top of the line.
yeah.
So even though it's Super 8, you're seeing like the higher end Super 8 products that are still very, fairly high quality, and especially for the medium that it was. We're talking about things that are physical, not digital.
Hmm.
And those naturally erode and degrade with time, no matter what we do, unless we keep it in like perfect climate controlled storage. And it's really interesting to see going back to that level. It's kind of skipping over just recording a show digitally and actually getting it onto a cassette. That's something that I like. I don't think I've ever seen it before in your age group, and it's really quite fascinating.
Yeah, I really don't know anybody else in my age group that, well, shoots on tape. Well, I know people who shoot on tape and film, but not all of them are like older than me and everything.
And what's the reaction like when you go to a show and you set up to tape with the other few tapers that are there, and they see you? And what's the general? First of all,
Well,
how old
generally,
are they usually? And then like, what's the reaction?
I mean, they can range from 25, 55, all the way up. But I'm not usually with the other tapers. I'm usually just kind of on my own. But this, I don't mainly record audio. I'm just a video guy. I just love holding the camera. And doing whatever with it and seeing what works, what doesn't work, and yeah, that's yeah.
And where did you start your journey with regards to learning how to edit? Was this something that you just were like, "Oh, I'm going to learn this," or was it something that maybe you learned in high school or something like that?
There was every elementary kid's dream to be a YouTuber one day, and including mine. And I edited my own video. Well, I just all I did in the early days was just paste an intro on and then an outro on a fully 10-minute clip off of Bandicam, and sometimes I would like edit clips. Well, later on, I would definitely shorten the videos and edit the clips, and then put in maybe a soundbite here and there, and whatnot, and I just kind of haven't really stopped since then. I just kind of picked up where I left off, and because I don't really like game anymore, especially now because I don't really have the time, honestly. And yeah, I basically been editing since I was 10, 9 ish, and yeah, it's been a
I
ride.
I I I I love that. And when I was a teacher, I was a high school teacher for many years, and anytime I had a student that had aptitude for a technical skill or for a trade, I would always, always, always encourage that, because at the end of the day, we need tradespeople, and in the same way that we need tapers for live music, like we need to keep the engine running. And it's it's really I find myself in this conversation trying to almost struggling for questions, trying to find like how, and it just really to me is, you know, the initiative, the working on improvement, the actively trying to obtain material. I mean, it's really something that, you know, we don't see today. And to your point about everybody wanting to be a YouTuber, I remember a time, or when I was in school, you know, it was athlete,
Hmm.
and now it's influencer. Same ratio. And it's incredible to me to take like this path because no one else does. And it was a conversation that I had with Turner May of the Sandbox channel last season, you know, where, you know, we need this tradition to stay alive. We need the music to live on and to continue to carry and to expose other people to it. And like you were saying earlier in the interview about how, you know, maybe someone will need to hear this music one day, really genuinely, that's all I want with this show, is that maybe somebody hears something that inspires them or helps them through something, you know, be it from me or from a guest. But it's not about like me, it's about everyone. And the service that you do is selfless, which is not something we see these days lately, or at least very common. And I gotta ask, after I just talked for a whole 5 minutes, you know, how does it feel like being in this kind of realm, but at your age? Because I can only speak to where I'm at. But I'm genuinely curious as someone who's just a little bit older than some of my former students, you know, how, like, do you find that this is, I don't know, alienating you from your social age group or pushing you towards like a different, like, how does this factor into your like social life?
I like it, you know, because it's unique, you know, like as you said, you know, nobody really else does this kind of thing, and at least to my circle of knowledge and my circle of people. But yeah, and I just think it's interesting, and I think people should be exposed to it. And I know there's an audience who really would appreciate what I kind of do, you know, and yeah, and I think music should be freely shared, you know. Um,
I fully agree, and you know, that, and again, going back to the Grateful Dead, the ethos of the words, you know, the words are yours, I'm done with mine. You know, really captures that, because it's giving the responsibility to the people listening to it. The words are yours now. Do with them what you will. And making the active choice to record them for posterity is a noble thing, in my opinion. And it just, in so many ways, is atypical
yeah, and
for your generation.
yeah, and you know, I don't really need to do it for the money, you know. I mean, there's no need to do it for money, you know, since the music's already being shared for free, and you, yeah, that yeah,
Well,
that
speak on that a little. So let's build let's open that up a little bit.
okay.
What does music mean to you that you feel like it should be free? What prompts that feeling in you at 20 years old?
You don't need to buy things just to feel something or to feel. something in your soul or in your mind or whatever, you know. It's and then music can make you feel like all sorts of these emotions, and now that we have all these streaming services, we can just pull up the song we feel like pulling up, whatever the mood is, and just play it out, you know. And it may not mean something to one person, but it may mean something to another person, and you know, just to spread it to to unsuspecting people too, you know, that's it's great, you know.
I mean, your passion for what you do makes me want to give KGLW another shot. Like, like, it's that
Dude, go to a
level.
show. Go to a show, please.
I do need to go. I do need to go to a show. But it's just, it's that passion and that in your generation that just makes me so hopeful and excited for the world of live music to come. At the time of this taping, on the day of this taping, actually, you posted your an incredibly shot show of a band that I've come to appreciate very recently, Widespread Panic.
That's correct.
And first of all, well done. It was really enjoyable.
Dude, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
It was really, really, really enjoyable. And, you know, unfortunately, we just heard the news the other day that the wonderful Mr. Jimmy Herring is dealing with some medical issues. And Jimmy, we wish you all the best and a quick and speedy recovery to be back on the road with creating Panic. But the juxtaposition of the timing is something that I would really like to bring up because you said something, and I'm paraphrasing here again, and correct me if I'm wrong. Something to the effect of maybe someday down the line, there's going to be someone who will appreciate this, right?
Hmm.
Now, the Sandbox channel is dedicated to preserving the legacy of Mikey Hauser because there just wasn't video footage in the early 80s, and then you had to set up a whole camcorder with a VHS stack and not get kicked out. So there's precious little footage up until starting about the late 80s, early 90s. And what you are doing in the same fashion is providing a service, a public service of preserving art in a way that maybe no one else is doing. And the reason I say it like that is I really, obviously, of course, all of us hope the best for Jimmy. And certainly video footage over the last 20 years of Widespread Panic, 24 years since Mikey passed, every show is recorded, but not from the fan perspective. And in the same way that Turner is putting together the fan perspective of the Mikey footage, you're putting together fan perspective footage of all of these bands. Nobody knows what their timeline is. And you are putting them into posterity. It's an incredible thing to do and to be responsible for. And it's a true service to music lovers around the world.
So yeah, I'll go back to what you said about every band that I'm seeing. Well, why not? Why not every band? Because you know Yeah, why not? Yeah.
No, absolutely. And that's the thing is that the folks who we've had on the show previously, Aaron from Ween Archived, Turner from Sandbox, those are archivists who focus on a specific band. And that's another thing that I find fascinating about the work that you do is that it's not necessarily about a genre or a band or a venue or a town. It's about live music. And that pure, unfiltered, unadulterated love for live music. It's just a beautiful thing to see from someone in your age group. It really is. I mean, and that's right. Why not every show?
I mean, of course, I can't do it every show, but I love to do every show. But yeah, I'll do as many as I can with the time and the money I have, and I do it at no extra cost. No support, no sponsors and whatnot. It's all of it's free.
As the way it should be, like Frank Zappa said, is absolutely free. We got to pause. I'm getting a phone call. Hold on. Uh, uh, Listeners, readers, viewers from all over the world, we're gonna take a quick pause in this interview here. We just learned in the last within the last hour that we lost the late great Robert Weir from the Grateful Dead. Bobby, may the four winds blow you safely home. And I hate that this is the example to bring, but this is why taping is so important. This is why what you do matters so much. Because we just don't know. Life is fucked up, and it happens to all of us. We're all human. And folks, I had to get out about 10 minutes of crying before we could continue this interview. The last time I saw Bobby play was in November of 2024. And I just wish we could get one more Saturday night. But this being the example, this is why, Ethan, this is why it's so important that you do what you do. Because all those tapers that recorded Grateful Dead shows and Dead and Company shows and Wolfpack and orchestra shows, that's how we keep the memory of people like Bobby alive. And this is why we need your generation to be in the bath with us and to be on this journey, because we never know. And you do us a service by doing what you do, and it matters. Sometimes there's nothing to say. And folks, if you just heard some dead air there, that wasn't because the audio dropped out, but it's because sometimes there's just nothing to say. We literally, not long ago in this recording, let the words be yours, I'm done with mine, and thank you, Bobby, for your words and for your music. And thank you to all the tapers for taping that music and making sure that we have it with us today. And Ethan, thank you for doing what you do, because you are now, whether you knew it or not, you are a part of this team. You are a part of this world. You are a part of this zeitgeist that is preserving music for future generations. And I am grateful for you.
And I kind of want to add on to being grateful. I'm grateful I found this whole community. Just in in general. It doesn't have to be a specific thing of what we do with these bands or which band it is. It's a really amazing community, and I mean,
You know, the way that I put it, and I don't know if we talked about this before, but I always had this saying, it takes a village to put on a concert, and it takes about the population of Wyoming to put on Lollapalooza. And, when you're a cog in a machine that's well oiled and working properly and producing a result, it's so easy to lose sight of the importance of the role that you play in that machine. And the reason I do this show is not just to highlight the guests that I have on. This is for every taper. It's for every light director. It's for every photographer. It's for every stage manager. It's for every independent festival operator. It's for everybody that makes a career out of making sure you have a great time at doors at 7:30, or that you have music to listen to, or that you have art to remember a show by. And this is why we do what we do here. And most events aren't planned. There's no way we could have predicted this would happen during this specific interview of all interviews. But I'm just kind of rambling here because I don't know what to say.
I do want to go back to seeing Bobby live. I personally have never seen him live. I would love to, but now that all these guys, all the guys I liked as growing up, well, and these are artists that normally this generation wouldn't really grow up with. It's usually the past two or three, and just seeing them all drop, it is a little sad. But I look back, on the memories that were made, whether or not I've seen them. Ozzy really impacted me. Really taught me how to be myself. Taught me, just do whatever the fuck you want. Well, not everything you want, but do something that he wouldn't do, or do something that that you get it. But
I would say, I think what you're trying to say without saying it, and the Ozzy quip really brings it together for me. You're unapologetically yourself, and that is a beautiful thing. That's a wonderful thing to be. And whether you can continue as an editor or a taper or whatever it is you choose to do with your life, the world is your oyster. And if you move forward in life with the same continued determination that you have been, I guarantee you that this your one and only college course, Secondhand Talent 101, will hopefully be at least a bit of a springboard towards that next step in your journey.
Yeah, again, I appreciate you having me on, of course, just being in the moment, it's all that counts. It's sometimes, yeah, it's all that matters.
I think those are better words than I could ever think of to leave off with this episode. Ethan, thank you so much for being on the show, and to everybody who's listening, reading, watching, Braille, whatever it is, thank you. 101 episodes, folks, and it's not possible without you. This is Steiner. This is Secondhand Talent. It's a podcast. We'll see you next Wednesday.